Hey, it's Terri, your favorite no bullshit artist and business coach, and you're listening to Terri Talks, where we discuss all things taboo, uncovering art industry nonsense, grounding you in confidence and leadership to run an arts business with unwavering power and grit. What's up? Welcome to another episode of Terri Talks. This is episode 6, and we are going to be talking all things about what could be the next step, how to figure out what the next step in your arts career might be, because this is a very, very personal and customized topic and idea. You all voted on this, so I'm going to kind of go through some questions. I'm going to go through some potential answers, and hopefully this will inspire you to figure out what the next step is for you in particular. Before we go over those things, episode number 6 actually turned out to be a free training on auditing your entire business. And I actually go through a post, which is sort of a checklist. So it's definitely a very hands-on episode. Originally, it was just meant to be another podcast episode, but it turned into a training, which is awesome and beneficial to you. So make sure to unlock that. I will make sure to link it below. Before we also get started, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you share this with your fellow artist community. And you can continue to watch these episodes, get inspired, and continue to fuel your arts business journey. So let's dive into this topic, because deciding what is next for you as an artist can be, 1, overwhelming, 2, exciting, 3, figuring out the steps, I guess, or the strategy, because we all want those action items. We all want the to-do list in order to meet a certain goal. The thing about that, the misconception, is that we use the word goals in a super lofty, broad way, which in itself can cause some confusion and anxiety. So I'm going to try and break down how to review or create what a goal might actually be to reap the results of that certain goal. And we can talk about the goal of the day. We can talk about the goal of the week. We can talk about the goal of the year. In the artist world, it's really hard to make long-term goals because we are constantly evolving. The art world is constantly evolving, right? Pre-pandemic, we may have had in-person shows lined up. We may have had all of these in-person events. And then all of a sudden, this big shift to the virtual world happened, and deciding what that's going to look like and kind of play this matchmaking game looks really different today. And now, of course, we have both options available, which is awesome, because we can have a virtual show in India if you'd like, and you might be based in New York. So it's hard to kind of say, I want to do this exact thing in 5 years, and knowing that goal setting should be a very specific thing. That can be hard to manage, and a lot of changes might have to be made. So it's just like really being aware of where you are, what the art industry and world looks like, how it's shifting, and being in touch with those things at first. So I like to think about the being an artist in 3 different stages. And this talk is definitely more on a structured talk, which I don't normally do, because part of my own philosophy is that I, as a coach, ask lots of questions to get my clients to a place where they can actually figure out what they want, not what I want. It doesn't fucking matter what I want at the end of the day. Of course, my goals, my clients' goals become my goals, right? We adapt to those things together in order to execute properly, in order to really figure out how to get there. But in their own way, right? Not everyone is going to have the same approach. We could all have the same goal. There could be 5 people in a room and everyone wants a solo show and everyone wants 500 people there. But the way we all approach that project is going to look so different, mentally, emotionally, physically, all of those things. So the 3 types of artists out there are the emerging artist, which is the person who, and it might be interesting for you to like think about yourself in these categories, and that might help you to figure out what the next thing is for you. Um, the emerging artist is someone who is really developing their business model. They're setting up ways of selling their art, whether it's on their website, whether it's on an Etsy, a third party website, whether it's through a gallery, right? That's the first decision to make, is how you want to sell those things, right? The emerging artist is figuring out what the pricing looks like and feels like for them. The emerging artist is figuring out what kind of artwork they are interested in producing. Are they interested in going into the prince realm? Are they interested in only selling originals? So it's a lot of like level one decision making, and sometimes that's the most important part of becoming that leader for yourself, is to develop that persona, right? You're taking over your own world. You're getting to use this freedom to fucking go ham. And to me, that is such an exciting stage, because you're really like birthing this thing from the ground up. So that's the emerging artist stage. The practicing artist is like 3 to 5 years in, okay? And I mean, I hate to gauge the time frame, but of course, time equals experience in a lot of ways. Um, you have the mindset of someone who has already adapted a bunch of those leadership skills, feels comfortable making some of those decisions at this point. They are working on refining what their business looks like and boundaries around their business, what kinds of clients they are attracting, what kinds of clients are giving them problems. Whether they're looking at trends on whether they're selling high ticket artworks, whether they're consistently selling low ticket offers, and they're kind of creating those tier systems. They are really much more settled in their goals, in terms of like, okay, well, in 6 months, I'm going to have this show, or they're applying for shows and they're being much more active. Okay, because they're sure of themselves. Um, and then the last category would be a professional artist who has had maybe 8+ years. They have consistent income. They have the connections. They've had a couple of different art shows, whether they're group shows and maybe one or two solo shows that have really, done pretty well. And they are well versed in the art trends and in the art community. Okay. And then they've got the body of their business pretty down packed and stable. Okay, so those are my 3 categories, and maybe you can see yourself in those categories. Of course, there are gray areas, but one thing that I want you to notice is that I did not mention anything about talent. We're not talking about talent when we talk about, goal setting, and when we talk about different um different levels of art experience, because you could be an incredibly talented painter and still not have your business foundation at all in a place where you're actually making those sales, or you're making the connections that you want, or you're attracting clients who are actually paying you $5,000 for a 2 foot 3 foot painting. So I just want you to know that I don't focus. It's not like I work with clients based on what I like and what I don't like. That's irrelevant to me. I think that all artists should be refining their skill. No one is above taking classes. No one is above the practicing and the basics. As an artist, I know that through and through, that there are moments where our creativity is coming in ebbs and flows, and we need to go back to maybe our art school days and just be taking a month of sketching, etc. So those are some of the ways to kind of identify where you are on that spectrum. Now, this all depends on then what your goals are and what you've already accomplished, in order to see where your future self is, where you want your future self to go. And that's going to depend on how big can you think. The hard truth about this is, if you've actually done the work to accomplish the things you currently have or don't have. Okay. That's just like a hard hitting fact. If you've done the work to set up a really, really strong business foundation with crazy business ethics, and you know what's up and you believe in your pricing, and you are talking dominantly and confidently, right? As opposed to someone who has been hiding behind their work, who has not been wanting to show up fully in all aspects of the business. Okay. It doesn't matter if you like it, if you love it, regardless of that, you have taken the time to overcome some really uncomfortable um, things in your art business journey. Then those are going to be two really different people, and they're going to reap two very different results. So it's one thing to be interested in your arts business, dream about it, think about it constantly, and it's another to execute to and through. All right. So that's just like a hard truth that you have to have a reflective bone and really look internally for that answer, right? I can't answer that for you. So the thing about that being so important and having that reflective bone inside of you almost at all times. I mean, that's what makes an incredible leader. An incredible entrepreneur is someone who can think well below the surface and take full fucking accountability for what they have and have not done to achieve those things. If you're like, I want to make $1,000 a month, well, what are you doing to let us know that you actually have stuff for sale, that you actually want to grace our presence with your incredible talent, that you want to monetize the shit out of the hours and hours and amazingly expensive materials that you have purchased? So when it comes down to it, mindset is in the action. You have to have a clear and certain mindset to a degree, right? Because things are going to feel uncomfortable. Things are not always going to be, you know, they're not always going to be painted exactly, no pun intended, exactly how you want it to be, right? When you're creating a piece of artwork, right, we can calculate it as much as we want. We can measure, we can use a projector, we can have a sketch that helps us. But at the end of the day, that painting or that piece of artwork is going to take a mind of its own, right? And so you really have to have that strong level of grit in order to take those action steps. So here's some questions I want you to really think about. Okay. And one of them that I brought up already was, how big can you think? If you're thinking about and pressing on one thing and you are putting all your eggs in one basket, right? And you're like, I just want to sell on Instagram. I want people to notice me. Why am I not getting the visibility? You're not thinking big enough. And you're not leveraging what you already have, which means that even if you have 100 followers, what if one of those people buys a piece for $1,000? You've already met your goal. But if you're focusing on the smaller things, you're going to be like your judgment's going to be completely clouded by the big picture. The second question I have for you is, what kind of new skills are you willing, are you interested, and are you eager to finally try? So a lot of the times I get, in terms of like where you see yourself as an artist, or what the next steps are, because that's obviously what we're talking about, is that you have to acquire new skill in order to get to the next, your future self, your 2.0 self. That person is not going to look the same as the person that you met yesterday, the person that you were last week. Every single day, I hone in on bettering myself, bettering my mental health, managing feelings, managing tasks differently, preparing for this podcast differently. Every little thing is me exercising a level of vulnerability and practicing that. My therapist always says that, when I've done a really good job managing something or expressing myself in the most clear, crystal clear way, she's like, you just practiced a level of vulnerability. You're learning and taking on and practicing a new skill. but you've got to be willing to do that part of the work in order to get to that strategy or that thing you have been avoiding. The next question I want you to ask yourself is, what are the top 3 things you have spent the last, I don't know, year or 3 years doing really fucking well, doing really well? Maybe you have been so on it with social media and you've been keeping up with social media and you've been hopping on the reels and you've been just like killing it, right? How can you leverage that? How can you double down on that? How can you bring something new to the table? Because you're good at that, right? But it takes another level of creativity. You can't be stagnant if you want different results. Ooh, that was good. The next question to consider, and I don't want to overwhelm you with these questions, but they all really are about a bottom line, which is figuring out who you want your future self to be and what you want the next steps to be. Because these are wants, these are choices. No one's telling you and no one's going to dictate what the next step is for you. If you are a practicing artist, right, you probably have the most reflective it's the most reflective time in your life to make those adjustments before you should be moving forward. Who needs to hear, see, buy, hire, and collaborate with you? That could be the next step in your career. Who do you want to, like, where do you want to be in terms of the networking process? And I don't mean networking in like being in a room and chatting it up and work in the room. I mean, like, who needs to connect with your art? Who needs to see it? Who needs to hear it? Because we can say we want visibility all fucking day. I want all the artists to see my work, and I want artists to vet themselves and hire the shit out of me because they see my messaging, they see my voice, and they want to be close to that. They want to be connected to me in that way. So then you want to think about, like, is it time to outsource certain things that you've outgrown? You want to go bigger. You want to get larger. You want to start focusing on the things and prioritizing making bigger work. Okay, so maybe you want to outsource making prints to have that second tier of income. Maybe you want to outsource, your social media. If you've acquired the income to do that, you can start to spread yourself in other ways where you can go bigger in terms of how big can you think. All of these questions are cyclical, okay? If you can answer some of them, you probably can answer the rest of them. Who do you need to contact to make those things happen? What equipment do you need to invest? What mentorship do you need to invest in, right? In those little sticky points in your business. So even if you are in the emerging stage and you're in the sort of figuring things out, once you are feeling confident enough in your business model, maybe your pricing is down packed by the second year and you're feeling confident and things are kind of like, starting to have a flow to it. Maybe you need to invest in part-time studio. Maybe you need to invest in better equipment. So those might be just the next steps, those tangible next steps, but you have to be ready for that, because what comes with investing in yourself, what comes with answering these questions is something that requires you to step up, but you can't step up if you're not ready for that. So really going back to working backwards always from whatever the big idea is, from whatever that next step that you've decided is, you're then empowering yourself to go back and think about what you should start doing, stop doing, and keep doing. So I'm going to go ahead and pause here. Just a reminder that please write to me, reply to the podcast episode at the bottom. I look forward to hearing your thoughts, of what resonates, what comes up for you, what maybe you have more questions, maybe you need direction. I'm taking on some one-on-one clients. I will be retiring some of my packages and I'll be emailing that out to you, so that you can take advantage of those things before January 2024. Again, it's me modeling how I want to run my business, and what kind of work I'd like to do with new artist clients who are so fucking ready to dive into this work and who are vetting themselves because they understand what that next step is. And you shouldn't hire mentorship if you don't know what that next step is. You really want to be clear in your investment and what kind of results you're looking for. Of course, being a business owner of any kind is going to have, some unpredictable moments. And to be honest, that's kind of the fun of it. Empower yourself to think about what is so full about being an artist in business and the level of fucking freedom you have to push this thing forward is fucking unbelievable. And lots of people envy us for that, for just taking on that challenge. So if you're interested in working together, feel free to DM me. You can email me. We can get in touch. We can talk. There is never any pressure. This is not something, some kind of sleazy marketing tactic to get you on the phone with me, because it's just as awkward for me as it is for you. But I look forward to hearing from people who are really interested in experiencing a transformative the transformative type of work. They're like so ready for that shit. Stay tuned for the next episode and make sure you subscribe.